how to help a child who shuts down at the mention of writing. This is such a huge deal for so many kids. And moms, you guys struggle with this because you don't have answers for them. Writing is really important. You know it's important. You want them to be good at it. You want them to succeed, but they just struggle. One of the biggest issues that kids have is not so much the coming up with ideas, but the writing them down. And so that's kind of a common thread. If you've listened to any of my workshops or you've watched my other lives or you've read any of my blog articles, you'll know that that's something that I just tend to repeat frequently. And that is, don't let their inability to physically write or their resistance to physically write keep them from writing, because you don't want them to shut down and hate it. And if you force them to physically write, and honestly, this is hard for some kids. It's not that they're making it up. It's not that they're whining. And I'm sure that there are some who do fit that mode. But really, for the most part, the kids really do hate it. It's very challenging for them. Part of it is a physical thing. For some, it's just small motor development that needs to happen. And for some, that's not going to happen until they get older, into older elementary or even into middle school. And for other kids, it's not the physical issue as much as the ability to get their ideas out of their head and onto paper fast enough that they can still hold on to those ideas and write them down in a cohesive way. It's hard for them if they get caught up in mechanics. If they worry about punctuation, they worry about grammar, they worry about spelling, they're perfectionists, they don't want to make any mistakes, and so therefore, if they can't write it perfectly, they don't want to write it at all. You need to help them get over this hump, and one of the things you can do is to let them tell you their ideas while you do the writing. This can be, in the beginning, you're doing all the writing for them. And I'm not just talking about kindergarten and second grade. I'm talking about all the way through elementary school and possibly even into middle school, as it was my case with my son. So very often it will be that they have to tell you everything and you have to do all the writing. It may be that they can copy what you've written down. So you write it and then they copy it, and then you work on the editing portion from their copied story or report. As they get more comfortable or confident, one of the things that helps is to continue with the dictation, but instead of dictating everything to you, they just do a brain dump when they're brainstorming. So just getting those ideas out. You've got a graphic organizer that you're working with. Hopefully you're using a writing curriculum that gives you some guidance for how to direct your children. If you're using BrightShop, you'll know that that's part of all of our levels. We want your kids to feel successful, but we want you to feel like you know how to teach them. So you guide them through discussion, you guide them through their brainstorming, you do the writing as they just, boom, get all those ideas out of their head. Then they don't have to hold on to it, they don't have to worry about it. You've even spelled some of those words that they know. That way, when they can then write independently their own rough draft, they're just drawing from their ideas, their own ideas that they've given to you. Their own words are on the paper, and they're less likely to pick short, vague words if they have given you orally really great ones. So that's one thing you can do is begin to wean them by then going from taking dictation for everything to just taking dictation for the brainstorming. Another idea with younger children is to share the pencil. You write a word, they write a word. They can write words that they feel comfortable writing or that they know the spelling. But if they get stuck and they don't want to attempt another word that's hard for them, you can take it and you can write it. For some kids, it means you write a sentence, they write a sentence. You just don't want them to get exhausted, because if they get physically exhausted, they will start to get mentally exhausted, and then they'll just not want to write anything. So Don't let their hatred of physical writing keep you from teaching your kids the skills involved with planning, writing, editing, and revising, because you can do all of that partially orally or all orally as you help your kids along. And that is a big leg up for your little ones and also for your older kids. And I say that because I was taking dictation from my son until he was probably 14. And even occasionally in high school, even though at that point he was confident, he liked to think out loud. And he would pace and talk. And it was hard for him to write while he did that. So I would sit and be his little secretary and write his ideas down. And he's, 16, 17 years old, pacing around the room, and I'm writing. That's okay. It just helps him think, get his ideas out, boom, then he's ready. Okay, so that's one tip, big tip for helping kids who shut down at the mention of writing.